Today's class is dedicated in honor of Rabbi Farhi. Thank you. I appreciate it. I always appreciate it when people are expressing that the shiur matters to them. Thank you. It really means the world to me. And in the merit of our learning that Meir ben Ruth, Yeshayahu ben Rina, Yoshua ben Dvorah, Shifra bat Rina, Margalit bat Dvorah, Mordechai ben Rina, Yeshayahu ben Ruth, Mazal ben Ruth, Leah bat Dvorah, Yeshayahu ben Bina Benita, Rachel bat Rina, Shlomo Yitzchak ben Bina Benita, Margalit bat Frida, Yeshayahu ben Frida, Simcha Sarah bat Dvorah, David ben Frida, Yosef ben Frida should find their zivug and be zocheh to build a Bayit Ne'eman B'Yisrael by anonymous. As well, all the other singles that are involved that are listening to should be zocheh as well with the same beracha. Also, Li'ilui Nishmat, Bela bat Harav Avram Lev aleh Shalom for her yahrzeit beginning tonight by her daughter Denise asked, and for the speedy and refuah shlema of Avraham Shlomo ben Miriam by anonymous. Okay, wonderful. Let's get cracking. Okay, here we are. Says the Mishnah. We're continuing Mishnah, the third chapter, the 10th Mishnah, which is broken up into a couple different segments. And this is what the Mishnah says. Rabbi Dosa ben Hurkenis Omer, Rabbi Dosa ben Hurkenis. So we've been learning about Rabbi Chanina ben Hurkenis. So this is Rabbi Chanina ben Hurkenis' father, okay? Rabbi Chanina ben Hurkenis' father. Rabbi Chanina ben Hurkenis' father, he taught that Shena shel shacharit, sleeping in the morning, v'yayin shel tzahoraim, and wine in the afternoon, v'sichat hayeladim, and childish chatter or talk, v'yeshivat batei knesiot shel amei haaretz, and sitting down at the gathering places of ignorant people, motzi'in et ha'adam min ha'olam. They remove a person from this world. Now, we've already discussed in previous Mishnayot that the idea of removing somebody from the world, it doesn't mean that the person is now required, that they give him the death penalty because he slept in one morning. It doesn't mean that we give him the death penalty if the guy likes a nice cave wine, okay? It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that when someone experiences, how do you call it? When they experience, chatting with the kids, that's a death penalty. Of course not. We don't mean that with any of these things. But at the same time, there is something to be said. It is important for us to understand that that these things in their extremes can actually kind of be very damaging. Just give me 1 second. We seem to have encountered a technical difficulty. Hold on 1 second. Mechila, I apologize. Okay, here we go. Let's try that again. Okay. Sorry for the interruption there. All right. I don't know why that just randomly shut off in the middle of nowhere. Okay. So what we're learning over here, it shut off again. I'm just going to leave it for today. All right. There's an amazing idea that we're learning over here. Okay. And on the surface level, if you look at the commentators say something that Rashi and Rabbeinu Yonah and the Bartenura, they all say very similar things. They say that, what does it mean sleeping in the morning? What's the damage of that? It's the fact that when a person sleeps in, they miss their opportunity, they miss their responsibility even to pray and to pray properly. However, there is a different way of looking at this. We don't just mean that if a person missed the time of Kriyat Shema or the time for prayer in the morning, that they missed their chance, they lost their chance. We don't only mean that. What we're trying to communicate is something I think which is much deeper. And that is, if you look at the various elements, we're actually speaking about one consistent problem expressed through different ways. And what is that? What is that one consistent line or thread that Reb Dosa ben Hurkenis is pointing out to us? He's pointing out that when a person sleeps in the morning, you slept the whole night. Why do you need to go back and have a nap in the morning? What are you doing? When a person, you want to have some wine, you want to enjoy something, no problem. Have some wine at night. Go out, have dinner, have a nice cup of wine, or two, or even three. It doesn't make a difference. No judgments here. That's not the point. But the point is to sleep in the afternoon, which is a time for work. What are you doing? Why are you frittering away the valuable time that you have? Sichat Yeladim is the same thing. Just sitting there talking about nothingness. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced it. Sometimes you're in the doctor's office and they have the TV is on and it's tuned in to some morning talk show. And I'm just sitting and I'm thinking, it's not that what they're saying is bad. It's not that what they're saying is evil. It's not what they're saying is wrong. It's just so banal. It's so pointless. You hear people arguing. I remember reading these, again, people in England might hate me for saying this, but the obsession that the tabloids have and the newspapers have with the royal family. Oh, well, Kate was standing like this, and the fact that her hands were down and her shoulders were drooping indicates that there must be a big, fight between her and the queen. And we noticed also that she was wearing the same coat that she wore. That is clearly symbolic of the fact that she's poking, accusing finger at her brother-in-law. What is this? Why is this important? Why are we wasting, actual human life minutes on this? It's so unimportant. That's sichat yeladim, the chatter of children. And finally, as well, you have the yeshivat batei knesiot shel amei haratzot. There's the assemblies of ignorant people. When a person is going, not that they're sitting and having a conversation at the deli in line, but we're talking about when a person is going to a chill, a relaxing area where people are just prattling on about nothing. Can I give you an example of this? All of us have experienced this over Corona. You come to meet somebody, you see someone, the guy's like, "Oh, how have you been? So how you been managing? You okay? Yeah, oh, other guys, had the conversation 1,000 times. Yeah, thank God, we're getting through. Oh, really? So where you guys been? Oh, yeah, we've been basically home. And the kids? Oh, yeah, the kids are in school, they're on Zoom. Wow, yeah, getting a little stir crazy. The same conversation over and over and over and over and over again. Talking about the weather. It's like small talk. It's just pointless, okay? Now, the reason why I'm making such a strong point about this is because Rav Noach Weinberg used to say something that was very strong, and eventually it broke through my brain when one day when I was actually at a talk that he was giving to us in England. And he said, you got to understand, our world today revolves around the idea of killing time. Never mind the negative things. Never mind the final one, the amei haratzot, ignorant people, they're speaking racism and speaking, sexism and xenophobia and, ignorant things about people, the rabbis and, in Lashon Hara about their neighbors. Never mind the negative stuff. Just the existence that we have. Think about this idea. Everyone loves to point the finger at social media and say that social media is ruining productivity. It's ruining the world that we live in. But I always say this, you can't blame social media. Social media just filled a hole that we wanted filling. It gave us something random, pointless to scroll through mindlessly. That's what it gave us. But we were looking for that if we bought it when they gave it to us, okay? So this Mishnah is saying, and this is what Rav Noach said, he says, when people kill time, what effectively they are doing is they're committing suicide on an installment plan. You buy a couch, you buy a TV, you buy a bed, and they tell you make 12 easy payments. When you commit suicide, you end your life. But when you kill time, you end your life in small payments. You throw away 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And I remember once, thinking about this from a very difficult perspective. There was a woman, unfortunately, a young woman in England who unfortunately had a terrible accident. And things got really, really bad. And eventually she was on a machine. And the hospital wanted to disconnect the machine, and the mother and the family were all fighting to try and get her to be, to get them to not unplug her. And unfortunately, in many hospitals, the way it works is once they decide that they should unplug her, even if the family disagrees, they can overrule the family based on the ethical board of the medical ethics of the hospital. All right, it's happened numerous times. Some of the stories go, viral in the news. You might remember Baby Charlie, other examples of this. But at the time, this woman was so distraught, and they started like a GoFundMe page, and I tried to help whatever I can and try and get some of the people that I knew who had the resources to help out to try and donate. And eventually, they raised enough money so that this family could bring a lawyer and fight the case in the hospital. And a week passed by. They got extension a day or 2 days or 3 days. Finally, a week passed by, and after the week was over, sorrowfully, it was a terrible tragedy. They ruled that now they need to let her go. So someone asked me, Rabbi, I don't understand. Spend all this money, work so hard, fight the system. What do we get? We got one more week. She wasn't even awake. Was it worth it? Was it worth the money and the time and the effort? So I said to them, let me tell you two things. Point number one. When a family has a chance to be able to do something for someone that they love, to keep them around for a minute, a day, a couple of days, every second is valuable. You have people who are sitting in their beds. If they could write a check for $1 million for one more day to spend with them, they would write that check. The problem is that we only are awakened to the value of life like most things. We're only awakened to the value when we're about to lose it. So when it's at the end of someone's life, we'll fight like lions for a week, for a day, for 10 minutes. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a chance. Every second of life is so incredibly valuable. So the Mishnah is telling you, wake up. Don't recognize that then, wishing you had more time, wishing you accomplished more, wishing you said things to certain people. Don't do that then when it's too late and you can't pay enough for one more day. Do it now. In fact, many of the Mefarshim point out something magnificent. They speak about this Mishnah in more colloquial terms, where the Mishnah teaches us, don't sleep in the morning. Don't drink in the afternoon. Don't go to the Batei Knesiyot. Don't hang out in the social halls. When are people going to hang out in social? That's already when someone's older. They're going to play bingo with their friends, okay? The commentators explain that what the Mishnah is teaching you is, when you're young, don't waste your life. I still remember someone once said to me something beautiful. They said, it's youth is wasted on the young. When you have your greatest amount of strength, when you have the most unbelievable courage, you don't know the meaning of no. You're willing to fight and to work and to be resilient and to put in effort and to do everything you can, and you haven't given up and you haven't been tinged by cynicism. In that stage of your life in the morning, don't sleep. Don't think later when I'm middle-aged, that's when I'll start my company. When I've made all my money, that's when I'm going to look for a shidduch. I have this guy, calls me up, he says, he's crying to me. I said, what's the problem? He says, I'm 42 years old. I said, okay. I didn't think that was a tragedy. I was also 42. He's crying to me. He says, I'm 42 years old, Rabbi. I said, yes. And he goes, and I'm still not married. I said, okay. So let's get you married. Chalas, let's go. You ready? He said, but Rabbi, he goes, I'm still not sure. I haven't made enough. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. I said to him, man, you're coming to me crying as if you have a tragedy. And then when I tell you, let's go, what's your response? I don't know. That's why you're not married, because you don't know if you even want to be married. You're not chasing this in the way you're chasing other things. And as well, now you've woken up, you can make money later. It gets harder and harder to have children later. Says the Mishnah, when you're young, don't be asleep. Chase dreams. And I have to say, on this level, actually our generation has actually got much better than previous generations. It is, in a large degree, it's the young people today who are making things and developing projects, etc., which are very powerful, which are influencing the world. So, on the one hand, we've conquered that point. The second thing is the afternoon, middle age. A lot of people, they're drunk in their middle age. What does that mean? The middle of the day, the afternoon. They get comfortable to a point. When a person drinks, what happens? Their intellect, their brain is dulled. They're kind of a little bit sluggish. That describes for many people the situation which is present in the middle of their life. They worked hard when they were young. They're not respected enough to be the community leader as an elder, but they're stagnant. That can be the middle age of a person's life. Don't be drunk in the afternoon, he says. And don't write your old age off by thinking, you know what, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm 80. What do I have to live for? We did a little while ago in the synagogue an unbelievable video and meet and greet with a woman whose name was Rosalie. Anyone who came will tell you that they were unbelievably impacted by this woman. And by the way, you could Google her and you'll find her. This is a woman who was like an octogenarian. She's 95, 98, 100 years old. Holocaust survivor, had a super difficult life. Her children died in the war, after the war. Seriously difficult life. And then with all of the sadness and with all of the heartache, one day she said, I'm alive. What do I want to do? And she decided that she wants to go dog sledding in Alaska. She's 90 years old. Go watch the video. You got to hear how she speaks. She decides she wants to learn to go dancing. So all of a sudden, this woman at an elderly part of her life realized, I have more life in me. I need to I want to accomplish more. I don't want this to be my whole story. I don't want this to be my whole book. There used to be an advert by the U.S. Army. It would be this unbelievable, 30 seconds of high energy. A person jumping out of a plane, parachuting into something, another guy running with a gun, another guy in a tank, and just like crazy high octane. And then all it said was, at the end of the commercial, it said, if your life was a movie, would anyone watch it? And I thought to myself, first of all, that is a very interesting advertisement for the army. It's like, come fight for your country and make your life interesting. It's a very interesting sell, right? To go into battle, and be shot at by, rebel forces from ISIS. You know what? At the end, I got shot with a bullet in the forehead, but now people are watching my movie posthumously. Maybe I'll get, maybe my parents will be presented with a documentary Oscar, right? It's an interesting sell for the army. But the point is true for all of us. What are we doing? What are we achieving? Which is interesting, which is exciting, which is invigorating in our life. And there's a lot of things that we could do which make us comfortable. But that's being drunk. That's being sluggish. All right? And then when you're finally having this idle chatter about nothing, that's when you've just given up hope. Okay? Now, I want to talk a little bit about this. We've said previously in the Shi'ur, amazing idea, where the Gemara tells us, answer amen, because it's live, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh baro. B'derech she'adam rotzeh lelech, in the way that a person wants to go, molichin oto, that's where they take him. If a person wants to sin, in Shamayim, in heaven, they help him sin. Because that's what free will means. God doesn't get in your way. The same way He'll help you do a mitzvah. Habal taher misayinoto. Habal tameh misayinoto. You're coming to do the wrong thing, we'll help you. You're coming to do the right thing, we'll help you. In either scenario, Hashem will help you. So I often think about that. This is what it means. Someone once asked me a little while ago. They said, Rabbi, you have all these stories, amazing stories with so many people. It seems like your life is so interesting. As soon as he said that, I thought of the army video. Right? And I said to him, you know what? Two things. Number one, your life is also very interesting. But most people are not aware, they're not looking for the interesting stories, the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the opportunity for chesed. They're not looking for it in their life. when you're a rabbi and that's what your life is and that's what you're talking about all the time. So it kind of helps you see these things in their proper, guided view. As well as a rabbi, people are coming to you for advice, so they bring you interesting, cases and interesting stories. So things come up. But I think there's something which is more important than that, and that is in the way that a person wants to go, Hashem and heaven help him. And what that means is, between you and me, it means that for each and every person in their life, what they need in order to achieve their life, in order to achieve their mission, in order to achieve their parnasah, God blesses them with that thing. When you're a rabbi and you're speaking all the time, and you need the opportunity to speak and to give people examples that they relate to, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to send you a lot of interesting stories. And it's kind of like that's on God. Hashem's like, I'm going to make sure that you're going to meet this interesting person, or you're going to have this random story, etc., happen to you, so that when the class comes, you'll know exactly what to say to drive home the point. Now, I want to take 1 second to bring this concept to its fruition, because effectively what it's telling me is that if a person is trying their very best to live a productive life, God will help their life be productive. Now, I need you to understand the level on which that is true. It means that when a person is trying to live an average life, Hashem says, okay, I'll help you live average. And when a person is trying to live an important life, a life where they make a difference to the community, where they make a difference in the lives of their family, and they're not just a regular run-of-the-mill, HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps them with that too. So in each one of these cases, we get the chance to live a life which is as bold, as exciting, as productive as we want it to be. But the price of that is making the choice and making the effort and not going to sleep. I still remember there was a woman, her name was Linda. My mother will remember her. Nobody else here will know who she was. Her name was Linda, and Linda was the cleaning lady in our home, okay? She was a young woman. She was from El Salvador. She came across and she would work all day in our house, all right? Now, a lot of cleaning ladies that are, cleaning your houses, maybe they're taking that job because that's the job they could get, or that's the job they have training for, or maybe they're not, smart enough or privileged enough or connected enough to be able to get another job. This woman, do you know what she was doing? At the end of every day, when she would finish working, she would go off to college. She was working in our house to pay her way through college, to get her master's degree. Eventually, I think she got a PhD. This is our cleaning lady, okay? And what did she do when she had that doctorate, that PhD? She took that PhD and went back to El Salvador and opened up a school for children in El Salvador. A cleaning lady, okay? Now, I need you to hear that. That means that when a person decides that they want to do something, a person might think to themselves, well, how am I going to open up something new? How am I going to achieve this? How am I going to take on a passion project? How am I going to work in the community? I'm busy enough doing the things that I do at home. You know what the answer is? When you're excited enough about something, you do your regular day job. You don't quit your day job. But what do you do at night? What do you do in your afternoons? I still remember this story about Rav Moshe Feinstein. When Rav Moshe Feinstein picked up the phone call and he called his grandson, and he said to his grandson, I really would like it if you could come to my house, and I'm making a siyum. I'm finishing a masechet, I'm finishing, Shas, all of the Gemarot. So for me and for you, that would be a huge thing, and everyone would come. But the grandson had been to the first one, and he'd been to the second one, and he'd been to the third one, and he'd been to the fourth. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein finished Shas all the time, all right? So he said, Grandpa, I came to the last 100 ones that you finished, And Rav Moshe said to him, no, this one's different. Why? He says, this time that I finished all of the Gemarot, you know how I finished them, he says? I only used the minutes that otherwise would have been wasted. So as an example, I took a little pocket Gemara with me. When I was waiting at the red light, I opened up my Gemara for the 1 minute. I was waiting in line at the grocery store, I took out my Gemara. Instead of sitting there spacing out or thinking or whatever, or wondering what I have to do next or planning my calendar, I took out my Gemara. So this whole Shas is made up of minutes that would have been wasted. That's why it's a very dear finishing of Shas to me. I would love it, he said to his grandson, if you would come to celebrate this. Now, to me, on the one hand, that was Rav Moshe's passion, was to finish Shas. Now, that might be either beyond some of us, it might be not what we want to do with our lives, but just to think of that concept, that when we say, I don't have time, what do we actually mean? And could we find some time to carve out, time that would anyway be wasted? I just want to give you just a matter. Even if you're sitting all day and watching television, what are you doing during the commercials? You see what I'm saying? There's time to be bought, time to be acquired. It's great to listen to music. Fantastic. Enjoy all your tunes. I have no problem. Listen to whatever podcasts you want, talking about sports. But when you're on the train and you have 20 minutes, before we took a break for Corona, so one of the things that we did was we had a daily podcast. It was the breakfast class from the Safra Synagogue. It was between 15 and 20 minutes every day. It was the length of time that most people took for a commute. The minimum commute was about 15 to 20 minutes. And we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on this podcast. I just checked the other day on Anchor, which is one of the places that we were storing the podcast. And there was 19,000 or 20,000 listens of this breakfast class. When? Just on the way to work, on the way home from work, in the car. Just easy. There's so much that a person can achieve with time that otherwise would have been wasted away. Time to drink away, or to sleep away, or to chat away. Just to think for yourself, where is time, empty time in my day, that I could turn into something powerful, useful, that will stick with me? It could be that you make phone calls to elderly people. 2-minute phone calls. Hey, how you doing? Just checking in on you. You could fit in 5 phone calls in 10 minutes. Beautiful. What an unbelievable thing to think that you could fill your day with. 10 minutes. 10 minutes a day to dial into a class, to read a book on bettering yourself on something, to take guitar lessons. It almost doesn't make a difference. Just to learn the language of productivity. That's what this Mishnah is screaming at us. And when God says, as I started earlier, God helps us do what we want. He helps us live productive lives. But when God sees that what we're inventing new ways all the time to kill time, sleep through the morning, drink through the afternoon, talk away the nights, do nothing with your life, scroll, binge watch. I always love that. People would go on social media and they're like, just binge watched 17 seasons of God knows what. What should I watch next? It's like, I got that you binge watched it, man. I got it. But now you're free. Why are you jumping back in? Why are you going to throw away now another 100 hours? What's going on? What is going on that we're trying so desperately to run away from life, to medicate with alcohol? What are we doing here? What are we doing wrong that our lives are so miserable to us that we need to run away from them all the time? Okay? Get in the car, turn on the radio immediately. Just to fill my space with noise. What are we doing? We're forgetting the language of productivity. And when God sees us killing time, all we're trying to do is pass the time. God says, oh, you don't want your time? No problem. I'll take it back. Life is so precious. Life is so valuable. We have to treat it that way if we want God, number one, to give us life, but number two, also to help our endeavors succeed. There's a great man, his name is Brandon Bouchard. I quoted him the other day. He has a book called The Charge. I recommended it the other day, and I think some people actually went out and bought it. It's a great book. But he has a line in there where he says, when you wake up in the morning, you come to the office, and what do? The first thing, you check your emails. Now you answer this guy, you respond to that person, you did this there. He says, that's ridiculous. The morning when you first come in is when you are at your freshest. Your attention is clean, it's clear. You've had the sleep that you had from the night before. You walk in, you sit down at your desk. That is peak productivity time. Don't sleep through that time. He says, don't even answer emails. You know why? Listen what he says. He says, answering emails first thing in the day is letting somebody else schedule your diary. Don't answer anyone's emails. The first thing you do in the morning is ask yourself, what are the 3 most important things I need to accomplish today? And spend time on each one of them. That's what you do right then. In your downtime, when you're not at your best, then you service other people's emails. But right now I think to myself this idea on a level which is not about emails per se. It's about you and me. What do we do when we are at our best? What do we do with the best years of our lives? What do we do when we're most dialed in? You wake up in the morning and reach for your phone. You're dulling your senses before you even open your brain. That's why it's such a beautiful thing to get up in the morning, to go pray. First thing that you do, as soon as you get up, wash your hands, get dressed, go pray, either in the Beit HaKnesset if you can make it, if not at home. Let that be the way you start your day. Let that be the first thing that you do. Get yourself in a beautiful state of mind, thinking about your life, praying to God for health, praying to God for forgiveness, starting your day clean without any burdens from the day before, praying to Hashem that my business, my parnassah should go well. That's the frame of mind you get in when you pray in the morning. So let that be the peak productivity time. And as well, in the youngest years of our lives, that is also an incredibly important thing. Now, I want to point out, there seems to be a progression through the Mishnah. One is sleeping. Sleeping is not a bad thing. It actually, restores your energy, helps you, get your energy levels up, helps your body heal from sicknesses, helps you, your skin clear up, it helps your voice be better. Sleep is an amazing, amazing medicine. Amazing. It's just that you got it in the wrong time if you're sleeping in the morning. You're ruining the language, the timing of productivity. The next thing is getting drunk. That's already a little bit worse. The next thing is prattling, just talking but not accomplishing anything. So although it's something which is on the scale, it sounds like it's better than being drunk, but at the same time, you're not drunk all the time. A person who gets in the habit of just chatting nonsense, it's very hard to get out of that. Now I want to point out this idea. Sichat Iladim does not mean talking to children. Talking to children is perhaps one of the holiest, most beautiful things that we can do as parents. Talking to children. Now, I want to give an idea based on a halacha that will help us understand this in its proper way. Rav Shlomo Zalman once said about the night of the Seder. I mentioned this in the mock Seder, teaching people how to give the Seder. Once you make the beracha, the beginning of the Seder, right? You're not supposed to speak all throughout the Haggadah. So he says, what if you have to ask someone, to pass you the maror, or pass you this? Are you allowed to speak? So we know the halacha. When you're speaking about something which is relevant to the need of the mitzvah, that's not a hefsek. That's not considered like you're speaking in the middle. So as an example, after you wash netilat yadayim, you're not supposed to speak. I come to sit at the table. I have the bread, I realize there's no salt. So I can say to somebody, can you pass the salt? Why? Because that's needed in order for me to make the beracha on the bread. And since that is what I'm engaged in, it's not like I've taken my head away from, or my focus away from what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm actually saying exactly what I need in order to be able to do so. However, am I allowed to say, can you please pass the salt? Because pass the salt, necessary. Can you please pass the salt? Is that also necessary? And Rav Shlomo Zalman explained, he said, speaking with midot, speaking like a mensch, is not a hefsek. It's not a break. Speaking like a mensch is a responsibility. Saying please is not an option. It's something you must do. So if you say, pass the salt, please, you haven't broken your silence between washing netilat yadayim and hamotzi. Now, I wish that was something that didn't need to be said. But for many people, unfortunately, it's something that actually you need to teach them, okay? The Mishnah does not mean that you're wasting your time if you teach your children Torah. Why? Because it's a pasuk in the Torah. Bishinantam levanecha. Go over it with your kids. Part of teaching Torah to your children, to your wife, to your husband, to your neighbors, to your friends, part of teaching Torah is, this is the halacha, this is what the Chumash says, this is the parasha of the week, this is the lesson of the Mishnah, when you're actually saying blah, 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 words of Torah. But speaking properly to your children, to your family members, with respect, with dignity, not losing your temper, not being negative, speaking positively them, is Torah itself. In fact, the Gemara tells us, Yafeh sichat chulin, better the mundane, the idle talk of the Avdei Avot, of previous generations. Even Eliezer, he was the servant of Abraham. Look how beautiful the Torah keeps going on and on about the conversation that he has with Lavan, because we learn tremendous things from the idle chatter of how someone like that speaks. Okay? How someone like that talks. There's a care and concern when you're asking someone how they're feeling, how they're doing. That is never a problem. We're never talking about that kind of talk. And as well, encouraging your child to be able to share their fears, their worries, their dreams is part of how you build a child's healthy development. We're not talking about that. And by the way, we're also not talking about the idle chatter that you have with people that makes them feel at ease. So when you sit down with someone and you say, oh, how's everything? How's your wife? How's your kids? Everything good? Okay, yeah, wonderful. So someone actually asked me to speak to you about the fact that you caused them some trouble. That idle chatter actually laid the groundwork so you didn't lay into him. It allowed him to get comfortable with you enough that now when you're speaking to him, he can hear what you're saying because you broke down the barriers. If you think breaking down barriers between human beings is a problem, you're so far away from the emet. A simple act of kindness is no different than a word of kindness or a word of care or concern about how someone's life is going. So what the Mishnah is telling us here is that there are things, all of these things relate to the productivity of a human being and how he develops in a healthy way. And when he doesn't do it, so Min HaShamayim HaKadosh Baruch Hu also, he says, look, you're wasting your life. I'll take it back. You clearly don't need it. You don't value it. But I want to share one last idea. And that idea is Motzi'in et ha'adam min ha'olam. Those words, they take him out of this world. We've given one interpretation where it means that Borei Olam doesn't give him a great life to live. Borei Olam doesn't, is not worried about making sure that this guy has life when he's clearly trying to waste it all the time. All right? However, and this is crucial, there's a whole other definition here. And it's hard to talk about this because it's almost always very hard for people to understand it coming from their own lives. And let me explain what I mean. I'll just explain what I mean by that, all right? Let's say, as an example, you meet somebody who has a business which is failing, all right? You, Baruch Hashem, you're doing well, you have parnasah, you have everything is okay, etc., etc. The guy is all stressed out. You tell him, look, you're very stressed. I think, why don't you go away for a week, get a nice vacation, you and the family, right? Take some time off, go to a nice hotel, eat out, change of scenery. Surely if you do that, you'll calm down a little bit more, your anxiety will go down, you'll be, It's so missing the point. It's so, in some ways, offensive even for the person who has everything to be telling this person, go to a nice hotel, take a week. What, take a week off of work? I don't have money to pay the rent. And you're talking to me about taking a nice vacation and going with my family to nice restaurants. Like, what are you talking about? You're so off the mark of where I am. And the guy doesn't mean it to be nasty. He's just completely unawares. Says the Mishnah, you have to understand one thing. Sleep enough, drink enough, chat enough, your perception of reality changes. When you become a lazy person, you know what happens? You haven't had a job for a while. You've been collecting unemployment. Now you come in and the boss tells you, I want you there 8 o'clock. That's when we start. You say, 8 o'clock? I've been sleeping till 11, right? That's like 8 o'clock, it's very early. Yeah, well, and what time do you want me there till? For 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock? When am I going to go out with my friends for early dinner? We can get used to any level of laziness that we allow ourselves to get used to. And once that is the case, our definition, our grip on the reality of life is loosened. And we're only able to see it through the prism of what we've had. So if life is rosé or is rosé all day, if life is sleeping in the morning, if life is chilling at night, schmoozing and doing nothing, then what happens eventually is you forget. Now I want to give you a simple example of this. You have people sometimes that they go skiing or whatever they're doing, extreme, unbelievable athletes. Football players. Meanwhile, what happens? The guy goes running, he gets a problem in his spine, he's laid out in the hospital for 12 months, not allowed to move, strapped down to his bed. Guy was in an unbelievable peak physical condition. 12 months, you're lying on the bed. You know what happens when you get up? You know what happens when you try to walk? You fall on your face. You need physical therapy, not to be an NFL player, not to go black diamond skiing. You need physical therapy to walk. You need physical therapy to do the things that you're doing now, you've done, your own achievements. You can't do what you're capable of. Never mind greatness. Just why? Because the muscles in your legs have, what they call it, they get atrophied. Okay? When a person stops thinking, their brain atrophies, which is why elderly people in nursing homes or whatever are advised to take up Sudoku puzzles and crossword puzzles and all these various things that keep the brain sharp. Lots of people have told me that my grandfather, my father, he still comes into the office every day. He's 82. Why? Not because they need him in the office, but because you have elderly people who, after a lifetime being top of their game, sharp as anything, they retire. And you could tell within 6 months, a year, that there's declining brain activity. That they're losing their... Why? Because you don't use the brain, you lose it. Don't use it, you lose it. You don't use your muscles, you lose them. Says the Mishnah, be careful. One of the most dangerous things a person can give to their children is a large inheritance. So the best piece of advice is never die, and then you don't give it to them. But sometimes you give your child a chunk of cash, or you give them such a leg up that they really don't need to work hard. You've handed them on a silver platter, Shena shel shacharit, Yain shel tzaorayim, and Sichat Yeladim. Which is why many of the richest people on earth are not giving their children and grandchildren huge sums of money. Because it destroys them. Yeah, it gives them a lot of nice stuff. But it destroys them as human beings. We are at our best as humans when we are working very hard. When you're relaxing, your body sends a message, oh, you know what? We're not engaged anymore. We don't need to produce. Now, productivity, though, can happen in many different ways. And sometimes it's important to be able to work smarter than harder. Sometimes actually what you need is to work really hard up here in designing and strategizing what your next steps are at work or in a relationship or whatever it might be. And it's not in the realm of the physical. But whatever it is, that decision, that idea to take things on. I'll give you an example, all right? Just happened now. I went to go get a haircut just now, and the guy cut my peot in a higher than I would like them. I told him before he started, I was like, do you know the thing with the bone? And you know when barbers tell you, yeah, I know. What, do you think I don't know? They yell at you for telling them something that you ask them. I don't know what, like, I don't think that they ever yell at someone when they tell them how they want their haircut. I know. But for some reason, when I tell them about my religious or Jewish requirement, they always yell at me. I know, you don't have to tell me. Anyway, what happens after you don't have to tell me? The guy cuts it higher than I want, smaller than I want. You know? Anyway, I'm not a very picky guy, you know, but this is a halakha that I wanted to have it, right? I have it longer. I like to have it longer. I told the guy to cut me a square back in the back of my head. He doesn't cut it square back. You know, he shows me the mirror in the back. How do you like it? I said, well, you know, I asked you for square back. You did my peot, not, you know, you didn't really listen. I'm not sure why you're asking me now. That's what I was thinking. Like, why are you asking me how I like it now when I was trying to tell you earlier and you didn't listen to me anyway? I didn't say that. I was thinking it, but I didn't say it. Here's a guy who's at work. He's at work. All he needs to do is ask, what would you like? And then follow the orders. It's not harder to cut someone's hair the way they've asked you than to cut it in some random other way. It's not a harder mission to do, okay? And yet, there are people who cannot be bothered. So that's a person that I'll never get my hair cut by again. Because he's not trying to do a bad job. He's not doing it out of spite. He just can't be bothered to put in the effort to do something to get it done right. That's what our Mishnah is asking us. You have one life to live. You want to get it right. It takes time and focus to do that. So don't sleep in and don't check out. Simple. Now, I asked you earlier, you know, about this idea of life. And we've spoken many times about the idea that this class is supposed to be an element of a workshop where you walk away with something concrete. So I'm going to ask everyone, once again, we've done this a couple times before. I want to ask them to close their eyes for 1 minute. Okay? And we're going to rewind. We're going to go back in time. And we're going to ask ourselves how we felt as children our lives would turn out. When I was a child, what is it that I wanted to do with my life? What is it that I wanted to be as a person? Simple question, yeah? It might have been something that you were very passionate about. It might have been something that you wanted to do, a chesed or an act of kindness for the world. It might have been some sort of profession, right? It might have been something a little bit more deep. Like when you decided when you were young what kind of mother or father you wanted to be. Those dreams, those visions, those goals, they're markers that we plant in the ground. But we've laid out what the life that we want, we've laid out what it should look like. Like the guy sitting in the chair. I've asked you what, you could have chosen any path. Why aren't we where we wanted to be? Now I want you to think of a couple of things that are within the realm of your possibility to be able to change just by putting in that effort. Whether it's, like I said, playing an instrument, whether it's learning a skill, whether it's helping someone develop something, whether it's a great idea that you had, that you did like what most people do, they brought it to someone else and said, someone should really do this, or someone should really sell this, and then never do anything about it ever again. What's going on here? Why are we not doing the things that we wanted for ourselves? What's going on? That's my first question. I want you to think of something in the realm of a relationship, in the realm of life, of a personal skill, a personal goal, having fulfilled or learned something, or having conquered a specific midah. Which ones did you think when you were younger you thought you would do? Why aren't we there yet? And what can we do to get on that track? That's what this Mishnah is telling you. And even if you're old, don't waste your time going and chatting at the bingo, because there's still life left in you. That's an amazing way of thinking through this Mishnah in a real, tangible way. Which opportunities did I not grab in my life? Rewind. I was asleep. I had a chance. I could have said something, but I was sleeping at the wheel. Recreate that. Milton Berle used to say, if opportunity does not knock, build a door. What do you want to do? It's your life. The problem is that we live life, almost all of us, in the most reactive of ways. We wait for something to come our way. Well, let me do that because that came here. This opportunistic, responsive way. That's not what life was supposed to be about. It was that way, it was designed that way for animals. Like you decide where you're going to graze based on where there are no lions. Yeah? That's not how human lives were supposed to look. Humans were given brains. They were given passions and emotions to be able to chart out in their imagination, in this abstract way, where am I going? What do I want to do or be? What's going on? What do I need to do? That's question number one. What did I want back then that I don't have? And why don't I have it? And how can I get it? But question number two is, I want you to think of these three periods in your life. Think of yourself. This is, again, an abstract thought. Think of yourself as a child, the skills that you had, the person that you were, the friends that you had, the schools that you went to, the family you came from, and just think, in an ideal world, what would have been produced from my childhood years? In an ideal world, what would me in middle age, what would that look like? Okay? And then finally, in an ideal world, what does the sunset look like? You have people who quit their jobs, right? They retire. And what are you doing? Nothing. They're hanging out in death's waiting room, waiting for someone to say, Mr. Goldenstein Bergowitz? I just made up that name so it wouldn't be anyone's, right? You're next. What do you want that period of your life to do, to be, to accomplish? You know, there's people who spend their lives putting aside a little bit of money so that when they get older, they can retire and buy a place in Eretz Yisrael and live and go to the Kotel and work on their tefillah and their connection with HaKadosh. Beautiful. That's something specific that you're doing. I know one guy who said to me how he retired, and what did he do? What was his goal? His goal was, he says, I learn every minute of the day. He says, I go and I learn Torah. I made enough money, I made a cheshbon that if I would live till 100, I haven't planned beyond 100, he said. So if I live till 110, I'm in deep shtuch. But if I live till 100, he said, I have enough money put aside that I could study Torah and do acts of kindness and do all the mitzvot that I need from now. I'm retiring, I'm 70, I think he was 78. From now until I'm 100. Guy didn't know about Corona, but either way, right? So I said, so that's so nice. So what are you doing? Are you doing Daf Yomi? And my friends, listen to what he said to me. It was one of those moments when, when they say, and the student has become the master, right? When you learn something so beautiful from a person who's not a rabbi, who didn't study as much Torah as you. You know what he said to me? He says, no, what are you talking about? I'm not learning Daf Yomi, a page a day. What do you think I'm learning for an hour? He said, I quit my job, so I'm spending the same amount of time that I was in my job studying. So instead of, he gets up to the same minyan. He goes to the same 6 o'clock minyan in London that he was going to before. Same 6 o'clock minyan. As soon as he's finished, instead of running to the office, he goes home, kisses his wife, and he runs to the Bet HaKnesset. And he sits there from 7 until lunch. He goes home, has lunch. What does he do when he's finished lunch? Well, what did he do when he was working? He carried on working. So now he's carrying on learning. What a magnificent thing. He says, I'm still working. I just shifted bosses. What a beautiful way of saying it, he said. I'm still working, I just shifted bosses. I wasn't going to point out that his boss was always God, because it was such a nice line, and he was hitting a home run. But that's what he's doing now. He's living the same productive life with the same productive language. I'm putting in a full day into something that I feel is meaningful now. So I hope that the end result of this becomes something super specific that you want to achieve, that you're not going to let yourself sleep through another minute of, that you're not going to let yourself get sluggish or stagnate the Sahoraim, and as well that you're not going to waste time talking to everybody about it. I think that's also a definition of Sichat Yeladim, talking to everybody about your idea but not actually ever acting on it. Oh, I want to do this. I want to go there. I want to travel here. I want to see this. Stop talking. That's what kids do. Kids talk about. Kids hacky. But a mature person, when they want something, figure out how to make it happen. Can I just ask that not everything be about something external? I think some people need to learn how to be good husbands and be good wives and be good parents and be good children. I think some people need to learn the skill of communication. I think some people need to learn empathy. It doesn't necessarily mean guitar or buying an apartment in Israel. There's so much that a person can achieve and accomplish within the world that is the human being. Because each and every human being, in the terminology of the Mishnah, is olam maleh, an entire world. May God bless us with the ability to be productive beavers, to get whatever job we set our minds to done, to get whatever skill we set our minds to done, to get whatever midah we set our minds to changing done, whatever Torah learning we want to do done. May God bless us with that element of productivity. May He bless us with the ability to stand up and to actively change our lives for the better each and every day. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next week. Alamak.